Hello everybody, once again this is Dax. I love you all. I hope things are going well for you. If things are not going well for you, then hopefully there will be something about this video that will help you get through it. I do not know what that could be, but I still hope that this recording will aid you in some way. And if things are going well for you, well, I hope this video will aid you in some way too. I try to offer aid to everyone equally. Saw a spider in the house before I left. A large brown spider. The animal totem of spider oftentimes represents the weaver of fate. Usually refers to when something important towards your destiny is happening. I find spider to be an interesting totem animal because I love them and fear them at the same time. How strange is that? I thought I saw something moving near the stone fairy circle that I've discussed before. Didn't see anything upon closer inspection, though. But yes, spider is an interesting animal totem. A prime example of powerful feminine energy. Or at least that's how I've always interpreted her. I've always seen spider spirit as being female. But yes, whenever I see spider spirit, I always wonder what kind of interesting events in my fate or destiny are taking place. Destiny itself is an interesting concept to think about. I am not a believer that you are a victim of your fate. I am a believer that you create your own destiny, but I'm also a believer that your fate and destiny is largely determined by you before you are born. You're the one who chose the reason for your life. You're the one who chose the basic story arc that your life will undertake. You're the one who chose what some of the key turning points in your life will be. And then you are born. You forget that you ever made these decisions. And then you live your life as if your fate and your destiny have been dictated by an outside source. That's my belief on the subject, however. Feel free to agree or disagree with that as you wish. But I will tell you that having such a belief is very empowering. When you believe that you're at the mercy of an outside force, then whenever something bad happens to you, you're always thinking to yourself, why? Why did this have to happen to me? But when you approach life from the standpoint that for some reason you decided before you were born that you wanted this to happen to you because there was something that you wanted to gain from it, well, now you might not like the event that took place. You might even downright hate the event that took place. But you're not a victim. You're forced to face the question of, why did I want this to happen to me? I did this to myself. I don't know why. But I did, so might as well make the best of it. Might as well attempt to learn whatever it is I put this in my life in order to learn. Might as well learn whatever lesson it was that I placed this event in my life to teach me. It's a very different perspective on life. And I consider it to be a healthier perspective on life. It might be a much more woo-woo perspective on life, and it might be a perspective that people will call you crazy for having. But it's a prime example of how you can stand in your own power. I find it interesting that I never really noticed those trains before I started recording these. Oh, sure, I'd hear them. I just didn't care about them either way. I've had to repeat many of the things I've just said because the horn would start firing off at just the wrong time. And after you hear this and it's been edited, hopefully you will hardly hear any of the noisy distractions out here, but isn't it weird how you don't even notice something until you're trying to record over it or trying to speak over it? There is a tornado siren near the house, goes off once a day, every day at noon. We like to call it the point killer because it always fires off while you're in mid-sentence. Fate and destiny. You know, I had an interesting experience with spider totem when I was down in Mexico. Pardon me, there's a car coming by. Hello. And she was waving back with a smile. So this one probably won't get the cops called on me. As I was saying, there was an incident with spider totem that I had when I was down in Mexico. I was sitting there in my motel room, and I decided to step outside the front door for a few seconds. And there, right in front of the doorway, right on the sidewalk, was a swarm of baby spiders. All of them traveling the same direction. They were traveling from my right to my left, just walking along in a huge mass. And there, a little ways to my left, I'd say about a door or two down, there was a giant toad. Well, giant. I'd say this toad was probably, 5 to 6 inches long in the body from nose to tail. And there was a toad sitting out there. And as this mass of baby spiders approached her, she would just flick out her tongue. And of course, as many of you know, spiders have a venomous bite, but toads are more poisonous than venomous. They don't bite you, it's just they secrete a toxin. And as this toad would flick out with its tongue to strike at this on-moving swarm of baby spiders, she just flicked them with her toxins, and they'd all get stunned, and they'd be paralyzed. All these baby spiders just paralyzed right there on the sidewalk. And I must admit, I was rather slow to respond to this situation. It was so unexpected that it just kind of caught me off guard. But you had this swarm of baby spiders marching right to their deaths as this giant toad was flicking toxins at them and then gobbling them up. So I was slower to respond to this than I wanted. And I prayed to God, asking God, am I supposed to let this happen or am I supposed to intervene? The feeling that I got from this prayer was that I was meant to intervene. So I went into the apartment, grabbed a broomstick, came outside, and slowly nudged the toad away from the swarm of baby spiders. I only saved a fraction of the spiders. I saved a lot of spiders, but nothing compared to what there was as they marched towards their doom, just completely oblivious to the danger ahead of them. But I intervened. I got the toad to hop away in a way that did not harm the toad, but I'd say that only maybe a fifth or a sixth of all the baby spiders survived that feeding frenzy. Very strange occurrence. And once again, I was approaching this whole thing from an animal totem perspective. And Spider is the weaver of fate and destiny. I spent a long time trying to figure out what the incident meant, and I still couldn't tell you. As I mentioned earlier, Spider is a spirit that I both admire and fear. I have a fear of the spider bite, but at the same time I'm not willing to kill a spider just for being a spider. They have as much right to be alive as we have. And so I've always tried to negotiate a peace with Spider. And so far at least, Spider has been willing to honor the peace. I don't harm her, she doesn't harm me. And another part of the agreement is that I try to pay enough attention to her that I will learn what she's trying to teach me without her having to resort to extreme methods to get my attention. I try to have that kind of a relationship with everyone. So far it has worked. Hopefully it will continue. This is a little bit off subject, but it just now appeared in my mind, so I figured I'd discuss it. I have seen something in my neighborhood a couple of times now. I'm not certain what it is. I'm well out of my neighborhood right now. My neighborhood is several blocks back that way at this point. But there is something that I have seen in my neighborhood very briefly, very fast. Something dark of color, kind of cloud-like. Don't know what it is, but I've seen it twice now. The first time I saw it, it was about 12 feet up in the air, moving from where I was standing. It was moving to my right, so I guess it was heading southward. And then it just turns and goes straight down, where it vanished. And there was another time that I saw it moving across the street. Once again, very fast, very quick moving. It looked like a dark colored cloud. Of course, both times I've seen it, it's been at night. So you don't have to be very dark to appear dark. And also, the eyes do play tricks on you at night. So it could be nothing. That is the possibility. But I've seen this thing a few times now. Who knows if I'll see it again. I am not in danger from it. It's not like my armor is bulletproof, but I'm not exactly a weakling when it comes to astral things, or at least not compared to a lot of the people I know. So I'm not that concerned for my safety. But I've seen something in my neighborhood a few times now. In a completely separate incident, right now I am on a bridge. There's a stream beneath the bridge that I enjoy meditating on occasionally. Right now it's been long enough since we've had rain that the stream is mostly dried up, not moving. But when the water is moving, it's a beautiful place to just sit down or even lay down. There's a raised concrete guard here. It's wide enough for you to lay on, and it's far enough away from the lights that you can just lay on it, stare at the stars, listen to the water rippling beneath you. It's a beautiful spot just to hang out. There is an entity, a water elemental, one of the few male water elementals that are discussed. In spiritual circles, water is considered to be a female element, and most of the truly powerful water elementals are female, very nurturing, very loving. That's part of their danger. We human beings have a tendency to meet a female water elemental, and we're perfectly willing to leave our bodies and die just to be with them. This isn't malicious on their part. The way water elementals think, they cannot even comprehend of intentionally harming anyone else. But they are dangerous because we humans, when we see one, we have a tendency to fall in love with them and abandon our lives in order to be with them. It's where the legend of the siren came from. The legend of the siren came from the idea of the female water elementals. But where the legend gets it wrong, at least to my knowledge, is that the sirens never intentionally lure anyone to their deaths. They're just out there being themselves, minding their own business, and it's the human in his state of lust who wants to possess her, who runs off to his death on his own accord. But I've gotten off subject here. I was talking about Ermot, and Ermot is one of the few male water elementals that people have discussed in various spiritual circles and everything. He's one of the Bardonian spirits, in case you're interested. But Ermot is a water elemental who is like, I've heard him described as a masculine way of being a female thing, if that makes any sense. But in the astral realm, some of the things that Ermot is supposed to be placed in charge of are rivers, streams, and relationships. Rivers, streams, and relationships. Okay, that works, I guess. But I've meditated on Ermot a few times. I've meditated on water elementals many times because I'm fascinated by them. I am drawn to them, and not in the siren-esque way that I just described, but rather I've always felt some kind of a bond to the water elementals. So out of the different elementals discussed in the different circles and everything, water is the one that I've felt the most interest in. Although I also feel quite a bit of interest in the Sylphs of the air. Sylphs of the air, though, they're intellectual, and they tell you things that you don't want to hear. They make you face the truth, whether you want to deal with it or not, and because of that, a lot of people don't like air elementals. They've been demonized an awful lot because people don't like the truth that they're ill-equipped to handle. There are some clouds coming across the sky, and occasional flashes of sheet lightning. Sheet lightning is what it's called when lightning just kind of lights up a cloud in a sheet. So who knows how long I'll be out here. I probably should head home, but I'm really enjoying just being outside at the moment. So anyway, I've gotten off subject twice now. We need to get back to Ermot. So I like to sit on that bridge, meditate on Ermot. What I was about to get to earlier is that I have intentionally chosen to meditate on the male elementals before the female elementals. I want to build up that self-control over my emotional state before I really meet any female elementals in my meditations, because I don't want that siren effect to take place. By the time I meet a water elemental that I would be attracted to in any way, I want that emotional maturity to already be in place so that I won't be overwhelmed by her magnetism and try to run away from my life in order to be with her. And so I made the decision to focus on the males first. Meet up with beings that are of the same element but I would not be attracted to, and kind of get used to the feel of meditating on them, being with them. So Ermot was one of the main elementals that I would meditate on. Sorry if this conversation's getting too woo-woo for you. But it is what it is, and I hope that you're enjoying the listen. I would meditate on Ermat quite frequently, just to try and get familiar with his energy. Even better if he decided that he wanted to be friends with me. So many people in spiritual circles want to control these beings. I don't want to control them. I want to earn the friendship of the beings that are willing to earn friendship with me. Someone abuses that friendship, it's just like a human relationship. They're out, they're not friends anymore. That's kind of my approach to this whole thing, is I treat these beings like they are friends rather than beings to be either feared or controlled. They're people, and some people will get along with you, others won't. Some people will be kind to you, others will try to take advantage of you. But Ermat is an entity that I seem to have gotten along with fairly well in my meditations. He seems to be the way he's described. He's a being of love and kindness, works on rivers and streams, is perfectly willing to arrange relationships with people who want that done. But one day I was walking across that bridge, and I kind of felt like Ermat was down there, and I saw a white orb. This was in my mind's eye where I saw this. I was looking out with my physical eyes, but my mind's eye saw this white orb shoot up out of the stream and fly right into my chest, and I actually felt an impact. The white orb looked kind of like a giant pill, a piece of medicine is what it seemed like. But I felt this thing impact my chest and go inside my heart chakra. I wasn't too happy about that. There are boundaries to these relationships, and you're not supposed to do shit like that without their permission. And even though he did this without my permission, my sense was that what he was doing was a good thing. My sense is that what he was doing was an attempt to help me in some way. But I was very concerned. I didn't really know what this was about. And once again, they're not supposed to do stuff like this to you without your express permission. That's an overstepping of their bounds. So I hopped online and sent out a message to a gentleman that knows a lot more about Ermat than I do. Described my situation to him, and he sent me back a message. This gentleman's been very helpful in the past. I'm not going to mention his name in this video, but if you ever want to contact me on a back channel to find out who he is, it's not a secret. I'm just respecting his privacy. But this man sent me back a message and goes, he validated what I was thinking, that Ermat overstepped his bounds. He was not allowed to do what he just did, or he wasn't supposed to do what he just did. So I scolded Ermat for that. I probably didn't scold him as harshly as I should have. I did not give him permission to do anything like that to me. But then again, I kept having this feeling that what he did to me was almost a thing for me. That's the thing. I actually almost said that just now. I almost didn't say what he did to me. I almost said what he did for me. And that's kind of my feeling of it, is that he did something for me, not to me. Doesn't change the fact that he didn't have the right to do it. So I scolded him, but not as harshly as I probably should have. Here I am in the middle of the night with lightning flashing in the distance, and I just walked past a funeral home. That's not creepy at all. Okay, I just decided to turn around and head back. Clouds in the sky are getting awful thick and dark. I hope I won't regret not turning back sooner. The temperature is lovely right now. Got a nice breeze playing through my hair. I'm moving at just a hard enough gait that I am sweating here. I am walking, I'm not jogging, not power walking, just treading along. But I am breaking a sweat, and this pleasant breeze is playing through my hair, pulling that perspiration off my brow. Beautiful sensation. I find sylphs to be interesting, but I have not yet seen one in my mind's eye. Once again, the sylphs are the air elementals. They don't like touching the ground, though. It's too solid. It feels very uncomfortable for them. They like to be up in the sky. More woo-woo talk from Dax. Once again, I hope you're enjoying it, though. But yeah, the sylphs have generally been demonized throughout history because they are the intellectuals. And the only way to be truly intellectual is to be willing to ask the questions that you don't want to know the answer to. You have to be willing to consider that everything you thought was real was wrong. And the sylphs, in their attempts to teach you things, will shove your nose right in this. They will make you face that knowledge that you don't want to face. And human beings hate that. I wouldn't say that I hate it, but I am uncomfortable with it. In many ways, I am very sylph-like, which is probably why I don't hate them. I feel a certain kinship with them, too. Sylphs, if anything, they are three things. Sylphs are intellectual, they are brutally honest, and they cherish their freedom more than anything else. Sylphs need their freedom. You ever try to cage a sylph? You ever try to force a sylph into something that they don't want to do? They will despise you for it. And for good reason. To a sylph, freedom is everything. So I feel a very strong kinship to these guys. Now, I hesitate to call them guys because just like the water element, the air element is considered to be a feminine element, but less feminine than water is. Air is about balance. In Hermetic traditions, that's the job what the air element has. Fire creates light and heat and expansion. Fire also embodies willpower and the ability to control. And then you've got the water element that is soft and cool, dark and magnetic, and embodies empathy and the ability to submit. And then air comes in and balances these two forces, prevents one from overpowering the other. Which is probably why the air elementals are so intellectual. You need to be very smart in order to hold the forces of fire and water in check. Because fire, breaking past obstacles, that's its thing. That's what fire does. Someone who's all fiery in their personality, if you want them to do something, all you got to do is tell them it can't be done and they will find a way to do it. So air has to be very intelligent to keep that in check. But once again, the kinship that I feel with the air elementals, they are intellectual. I admire intellectualism. It can be argued that I admire the intellect more than I admire anything else. Although genuine kindness, if it's not a tie, it's a close second. But air elementals, the sylphs, they are so intellectual, and they're honest. They will show you the truth that you don't want to see in order to teach you. And if you've listened to any of my recordings at all, you've probably noticed that I like to slip in the bitter pill here and there. I'd probably be a lot more popular if I didn't do that. If I just told people everything that they want to hear and be all nicey nice about it, but then I wouldn't actually be helping you. And that's my goal, is to help people. But the air elementals, they also slip in the bitter pill. They will tell you things that you don't want to hear, but you need to hear it. And then there's their freedom. The air elementals need freedom more than anyone else. Let me rephrase that. The air elementals, the Sylphs, they love their freedom more than anyone else. To an air elemental, the attempt to control them will be considered a great sin. And this is something I definitely agree with. I need my freedom. I would rather live free as a homeless person than live shackled to a mortgage and a car payment. That's who I am. To me, that is a fair trade-off. It's a trade-off that I would rather not make. I would much rather have both. But I value my freedom more than I value even having a home. And that means a lot coming from a homebody, because I do enjoy hanging out at home. Freedom means even more to me than that. So yes, I love the Sylphs in many ways. I feel a lot of kinship with the Sylphs. Our culture has a very limited mythology of the Sylphs, though. I mean, when you're dealing with the earth elementals, the fire elementals, and the water elementals, you can find some kind of mythology all over the place. The Sylphs are conspicuously missing from our mythologies. Probably because people just don't like being told the blatant, honest truth. See, we as a race, we have next to no understanding of the water elementals whatsoever. Hello, whoever you are. There is someone in the trees off to my right. Don't know who they are or what they are. But yeah, as I was saying, almost all of our mythology about the water elementals is blatantly wrong. But we still have a lot of it, because people like the idea of mermaids. By the way, that's what the water elementals are. Mermaids are not physical beings, as much as mermaid fans want them to be. Everybody wants to find a skeleton or a body. They are water elementals. They live in the fairy realms. But people like the idea of mermaids. We like the idea of sirens, which sirens are mermaids. As I've already mentioned, water elementals do not set out with the intent to destroy people's lives. They are just so magnetic and beautiful that a human being's perfectly willing to leap out of his body in order to try and possess one forever. And all that the mermaid's doing is chilling, minding her own business. Here comes along some stupid human who wants to own her, and she's the one who gets the bad rap. So we don't understand the water elementals at all, but we like the idea of them. So we have lots of legends and myths about the water elementals. Then you've got the earth elementals. The gnomes are the earth elementals. Also the dwarves from Norse mythology. I believe they're the same thing. I'm not certain on that. I have seen some earth elementals in my astral eye, but they were gnomes. The main one that I remember seeing, I was just simply meditating, my astral eye wandered, and I was just hovering over the curled up body of a little old man, sitting there taking a nap on the rocks. And I wandered really close to him without even realizing what was going on, because his eye opened up and we surprised the hell out of each other. The gnome bolted awake and I hopped out of my meditation. It was just instantaneous for both of us. But yeah, we have plenty of mythology surrounding the earth elementals, simply because they're easy for us to understand. Out of all the elementals, they come the closest to understanding the concept of time. See, the elementals, they don't understand past, present, and future. They do not live within the timeline, they live in the astral realm. But the gnomes still have some concept of time because they know what it means to have a job that you start, you work on, and you finish it. So even though a gnome doesn't actually live within the realm of time, they still go, I rose this mountain from a flat plain, and then I dissolved it again into a flat plain, and I was done. I actually have very little experience with the gnomes. Actually, I have very little experience with all of these. I've pretty much just had quick little interactions with them in my mind's eye, and then I've read about them. So please do not treat me like an authority on the subject. But we have mythologies about gnomes because of all the four elementals. They're the easiest for us to understand. And then you've got the fire elementals, the salamanders. I wouldn't say that we have a lot of mythology about them, but we do understand what they're about. Fire is all about blasting through obstacles, getting stuff done. Fire knows how to destroy things. Our entire civilization is based on fire. Just so you know, in Hermetic teachings, lightning is part of the fire element. Lightning and fire are the same thing in Hermeticism, or Hermetics, depending on how you choose to describe it. Thing is, in Hermetics, you're not really supposed to discuss this stuff. You know, in the old days, discussing this stuff would get you killed, and even today, discussing this stuff can make you a pariah. But periodically throughout this walk tonight, I have been praying that I say what I'm supposed to say, that everything I'm saying is in alignment with my higher self, and that what's coming out of my mouth is what's supposed to be coming out of my mouth. And here I'm discussing all this stuff that I'm repeatedly told not to discuss. So I guess I'm supposed to be discussing it. There is a lot of lightning up in that sky. Just so you know, since we're on the subject of fire elementals, Itumo is the fire elemental who lives on the surface of the planet and is considered to be the master of lightning. So it looks like Itumo is out there playing, having some fun. And I feel like I would like Itumo if I were to ever meet him in my meditation. And the people that I've heard discussing Itumo, they seem to like him too. I don't know. It's just a hunch I get that I would probably enjoy meeting Itumo. Hopefully I will meet him someday, and even more importantly, hopefully it will be as enjoyable an experience as I think it would be. But Itumo is the fire elemental who's considered the master of lightning. Itumo is considered to be one of the great kings of the fiery realms. Just the other day, I listened to an interview with this young lady who was describing her she was describing her experiences with Itumo, and she goes, well, it's just the girly girl in me, but I really crush on Itumo. But humans seem to like him. I hope that he is worthy of our liking him, but you should never trust anyone blindly. You'd be a fool to trust a human blindly, and so you'd be a fool to trust an elemental being blindly. I still look forward to the day that I meet Itumo, though. You've probably noticed in my voice I have been walking long enough and hard enough now that I'm actually feeling pretty winded. Makes it difficult to talk without a lot of heavy breathing. But yeah, I've been going down the list of the elementals. We have lots of mythology regarding the earth elementals because they are the most human-like. We have a lot of understanding of the fire elementals because we like the idea of destroying anything that stands in our way to prevent us from our goals. As a side note, there is a fire elemental named Pyram who is considered to be the master of the core of the earth. Once again, never met Pyram myself, have no personal experiences with him, but apparently his goal is to someday achieve a pure fire that burns eternally but without having to destroy anything in order to exist. It's a pretty admirable goal. Really, what he's asking for is the ability to live without having to eat, the ability to live without having to kill anything else in order to continue living. That is a very cool goal. Yeah, that's fire. And then there's the water element that we probably actually have the most mythology of just because we like them. We like the idea of being a fisherman who dredges some sexy woman out of the sea, even though we have no real comprehension of the water element at all. We cannot even fathom the mind of someone who cannot fathom the idea of hurting someone on purpose. But we have hardly any mythologies on the Sylphs. The Sylphs are conspicuously missing. And I think it's because we human beings, even though we have a lot in common with them, we have a lot of understanding of intellectualism. We're not very intellectual, but there are some powerful intellectuals among us. But the air elementals, they've got that pesky habit of telling you things you need to hear whether you want to hear it or not. And we humans just don't like that shit. You tell us something that we don't want to hear, and we're just like, shut the fuck up. And then we proceed to ignore their advice and destroy our own lives, and we're surprised that our lives are destroyed, and we're blaming God or whatever for the fact that we just didn't want to hear what we needed to hear. And so when you look through human history, it's mainly been the mystics and the sages who have been in contact with these beings. Philosophers and thinkers. Not atheistic thinkers, of course, because, they're atheists. But it's always been the greatest thinkers among these spiritual people that have been in contact with these beings. And when you're egotistical, you just don't want to pass on any information that hurts your ego. And so I think that's why the Sylphs are conspicuously missing from our mythologies. Well, this has turned out to be an interesting discussion tonight. The elementals are one of my favorite things to discuss. I've never wanted to discuss them in these recordings because, once again, there are societal ramifications for discussing them openly. Not just societal, but there's also egotistical ramifications for it. Talking about this stuff can really stroke your ego, especially if you're in the place where I'm at, where you've had like a few small interactions, but nothing quite major. The ego will try to blow these out of proportion, make them major events. Right now my ego is trying to make me speak as if I'm a major authority on the subject, and that if you want to know anything about this, you come to me and I'll tell you. No, I've had a few minor interactions with them, just enough to be of the opinion that they are real. Itumo's playtime is getting closer. I could actually hear that lightning crackle. Ooh, that was a crazy lightning bolt. I actually kind of felt the presence of that one in my crown chakra. And it's just now rumbling. That's how far away that sucker was, and I felt it. But yeah, this is the sort of thing that you're not supposed to discuss openly. Your ego can really go narcissistic with this stuff if you're not careful. And in addition to that, you can just get in trouble with people when they find out that you've had some of these experiences or you've contacted some of these beings. But when I started this discussion tonight, I came out, said a prayer that everything I said would be in alignment with who I really am, that what I would say would somehow help people, and that whatever I was supposed to be saying would just come pouring out of my mouth. And this is what I've been discussing. I hope I did help some of you out there. I'm almost at the house, and it looks like it's just in the nick of time because that lightning is getting very close. Another fork fired off just as I said that. So I'm going to go inside now. As always, I want to remind you that I love you all. I love the entire human species deeply. So the mere fact that you are a human being means that you are included in that love. But then again, you don't have to be human to be included in that anyway. I really do hope that I've helped some of you tonight. I don't know how or in what way. Ooh, another lightning bolt right above my head. But I really hope that someone out there heard what they needed to hear. And there's a toad on the ground right in front of me. Hi there, little guy. Hi there, little sweetie. Be safe, buddy. And be safe, all of you. Love you.